So if you are a new Parallels user, you probably ran into this because I keep getting asked this question. I started up my Windows VM and it went full screen and I can't get it out of that mode. Well, I'm going to tell you how to do that. Plus, I'm going to give you 4 other tips. I'm going to talk about how to copy and paste between Windows and Mac. I'm going to talk about how to use files, transfer files back and forth between Windows and Mac. Then I'm going to talk about performance issues and how you can optimize your VM to run faster or slower depending on what you need. And last, I'm going to talk about Coherence. Coherence is a cool feature that you're going to love, and we'll talk about the magic of that later. So here we are, and I'm going to start Windows. So number 1, and it's probably why you're here, you want to know how to get out of full screen. Here's what you do. You can do Command Control F, and that will put your Windows system in Windows mode. That exits out of full screen. If I do Command Control F, again, it'll put you right back into full screen mode. So it's a toggle. You can toggle back and forth between the two things. Next up, I want to talk about copy and paste. So a lot of people assume Windows and Mac are completely separate inside Parallels, but like the two machines can't talk to each other, but they can. So let's say, for example, I open up Notepad and I start typing out, "This is my Windows desktop." Sorry, I didn't mean to sing that. And I want to copy this text over to my Mac. You can do the Control C, or I can do Edit, Copy, and then I can go over to my Mac and pull up Notes, so here's Notes. I can go over here and I can do Paste. And look, there's the text that I had over on my Windows machine. I can copy and paste it right over here. This is the text I typed into my Mac Notes on Mac OS, and now I want to copy this over to Windows. So here, select this. I can go up to the top here, say Edit, Copy, and then I can go over here to my Windows machine and I can do Edit, Paste, and there. This is the text I type into my Mac Notes on my Mac OS. So there it is. That's copy and paste between Mac and Windows. See, how this works is Parallels has a shared clipboard. And so that clipboard allows you to copy things back and forth. And it's on by default. So we're halfway there. Tip number 3 is where people get frustrated. It's because file sharing doesn't work the way they expect. And yes, that is a royal pain. So here we're on Windows, minimize this, and we go to File Explorer. Okay. If you look right here on File Explorer, here is, your iCloud you can get to. You go over here, this PC, and you'll see Home on your Mac drive right here. So if you drop a file here, it'll land here. So for example, I've got this file I'm making here, file, save as, I can find it, and I can actually save it to my iCloud, or I can save it to Documents here. This is a test file. Save. All right, so I just saved it. Now I'm going to close. And when I saved it to Documents, it actually saved it on my Mac under Documents. So if I scroll down and go take a look, and the T's, this is my test file right here. See? There's the file. Now, I can go over to my Mac and go to Documents. So I'm going to minimize this. I go to my Documents and Documents. And there's my test file. So now I'm opening it up on my Mac in TextEdit. So there's the same document. So I can go back and forth and open this file. It's that easy. And I can save files to my Documents, and then when I go back to Windows, anything I save in Documents is available to me now there. So it works. It's awesome. I can also go to my downloads. So if you're used to seeing all the stuff I've downloaded, then hey, I can go there Lots of fun stuff there. So that is it. That is how easy it is. And you can drag files back and forth. There's no USB having to use a USB drive to go between the virtual machine and your Mac. And you can drag and drop stuff too. So let me show you this. Here's my file folder. Here's my test file. I could actually take it and drag it to my desktop right here and drop it. See? Now it's there on my desktop, and I can open it on my Mac and text edit. See? Just that simple. So it's easy to go back and forth between your Mac and your Windows virtual machine. So now let's talk about performance issues. Now, usually the issue with performance is you've not given enough resources to a virtual machine. Sometimes your Mac is slow because you gave too much to the virtual machine. So let's go take a look at settings. Now, the key to this is that your virtual machine has to be shut down in order to make any changes to CPU and memory. And those are the two things that we're going to change. So let's go and we'll shut down our Windows. So here's our Windows VM. Ta-da! And shut down. And shut down. So I hit the power button, and now it's shutting down. If I tried to go to the Parallels menu and change preferences with it running, it would not let me do it. So here we go. Here's Control Center. This is what you need. So you have to go here, open it up, and say, show me Control Center, and then you click here. So when the Mac is shut, when your Windows desktop is shut, you got a lot more options in here. Okay, so we'll go and take a look. So hardware. So we're going to take a look. Here's CPU, and right now you'll see for this Mac 4 CPUs and 8 gig of RAM, and it's going to use up to 8 gig of RAM for, up to 4 gig of RAM for. So you can go here and say, hey, I only want to run with 4 or 8's fine. You can manually set what you set it to, what far as what you want it to have. Now here's the catch. Your Mac has to have those resources. So I happen to have a Mac that has a fair amount of cores and a decent amount of memory, so I can afford to give it that. If you only had a Mac with 8 gig of memory, then you're not going to want to give more than 4 gig to Windows. It'll be a little slow, but that would be the most. If you have 16 gig of memory on your Mac, then you probably can afford to go 8 gig of memory. And if you have a bunch of cores, so this is probably an okay setting, and you can probably go with the automatic recommended, which is fine. But if you have a machine that has a lot of horsepower, then you could give Windows more memory, you could give it more CPUs if your machine is equipped to handle it. So you'll need to know what kind of machine you have. If yours is showing 2 cores and 4 gigs of memory and you have it to spare, doubling those things is going to give it a dramatic boost, so you will appreciate what happens when you do that. I want to talk about why you may have needed Windows to start with. Maybe there is some application that you really love, and it's only available for Windows. So you have Mac OS, you get Parallels 26 or higher, and then you do a Windows virtual machine. I have a video on my channel about how to install Windows 11 on Parallels. I'll post a link to it right here up above my head so you can find it. So going back to my Windows desktop, let's say, for example, I want to play a Steam game that only works on Windows. So here is Gauntlet, and I love this game. I also love Grim Fandango, but anyway. So anyway, Gauntlet, and here it is, and I want to start the game. I can start it up and get running. Now, if I start the game, the whole point being is that there are programs that only work on Windows, and that's where Parallels come to head. Maybe you are a professional and you need to run Power BI. Power BI sadly does not work on Mac. Maybe you want to run Microsoft Project. It doesn't run on Mac. Maybe you want to run Visio. It doesn't run on Mac. So those are things that you might want to run Parallels for. I'm into gaming. Welcome. So, I can go here and select and play, and I'm ready, and it goes. Now, let me show you this. If you go right here and choose Coherence, which is what I'm going to do. So, we talked about the modes. You can do picture-in-picture, which is what that windowed version of Windows on your Mac is. And then full screen, which is it takes up the whole screen. I can do Coherence. And here goes the switching to Coherence. And what that does is I'm running the game. I don't have to worry about whether Windows is running. Windows is running behind the scenes. Here's the game. I'm running it now. Let's go. Yeah.
Thank you.
I can go up top here, view, and I can say exit Coherence. Now, here's the cool thing, is that here it is running in the tray. And if I want, I can even say add to Launchpad. Options, keep in desk, show in Finder. I can say add to Launchpad. And then I can literally go to Launchpad on my Mac and start up Gauntlet, and it will crank up Gauntlet. And Windows is behind it, but I don't necessarily need to see it because it's just happening in the background. So, but now I can go say quit the game. That wasn't the nice way to do it, but let's go do it and say stop. All right. So there, that's what Coherence is all about. So I can literally go up here and say, hey, put me in Coherence mode, or use all displays, or take a screenshot. So that's it. 5 options. 1, I showed you how to get out of full screen mode. Remember, that is Control-Command-F. That will toggle you back and forth between full screen mode. Then I showed you about copy and pasting back and forth between Windows and Mac and vice versa. And then I showed you about sharing files back and forth between the two of them. And then I showed you about doing performance troubleshooting to say, oh, hey, I can add memory or subtract memory, or I can add CPU, I can subtract CPU, how to go about doing that if you think it's running too slow, or if it's running too fast, or if it's impacting performance of your Mac. So that's all that. And then I showed you Coherence mode, where I literally can go play my game, and then go up here and say, hey, view, and put in Coherence mode. By the way, if you want to do it, you can do Control, Command, and C will put you in Coherence mode. So switch into Coherence mode, and then it just hides Windows, and all you see then is the game. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was helpful. I'll be doing some more videos on some other tips on how to use Parallels. I have an affiliate link down in the tray, down in the description. And right now, as I'm recording this, Parallels has a 45% off discount code, which I will put in the description. Hopefully that code lasts for a while. But if you want to buy Parallels desktop, there's 45% off. I will get an affiliate. I get a little commission, but hey, it's not much. And I am a paid customer. This is my copy of Parallels, my licensed copy. I run Parallels on my desktop. So thank you so much for watching. Bye.